Okay, we are live. It is so good to be with everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm here with Kimberly Laura, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Kimberly is a divorce coach and a licensed mental health counselor. And Kimberly, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kimberly Laura. I am located in New Jersey. I am a licensed professional counselor, licensed therapist. I'm also a certified divorce coach, and I am the founder and owner of Blossom Coaching.
Awesome. I'm excited for this conversation because we're going to delve into what it looks like to have safe spaces where we can really lean in and get in touch with whatever challenging thing that is all encompassing that we are walking through. For a lot of Kim's clients, I know that's folks who are navigating the transition of separation and or divorce. And we're also going to explore what these containers offer as far as getting reconnected to ourselves, finding community, and building a way forward. And I just think it's such an important conversation. And I'm thrilled to be joined by Kim. Kim, could you share a little bit about how you approach this work, what your programs look like? That would be really
Sure. Sure. So I help people heal from the pain of divorce so that they could move forward and feel grounded and have a sense of peace, certainty, and renewed strength. And I got into this field. I have always been a therapist. I was a school counselor for a while. I had my own private practice. And then in 2016, my world fell apart. My husband said he wanted a divorce. A year and a half later in 2018, I was divorced after 23 years of marriage. And I realized that you do feel really unsafe. You feel unsafe, you feel uncertain, you feel like your world has been turned upside down because it actually has. Um, you lose your identity. And I realized that when I, as a therapist, was in this place where I felt it was like temporary insanity. And I often describe it as temporary insanity. I thought there needs to be something to help people get through this chaos, like find some calm in the chaos. So that's when I went back to school and became a certified divorce coach. So that's what I do now. I help people find the calm in the chaos and how to go from chaos to clarity. So yeah.
That's so cool. And I realized that I think I may have forgotten to introduce myself just in case. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Maria Natapov, and I'm a co-parenting and step-parenting coach. And I work with parents through the incredible transformational BH2O framework, where I essentially support them to find calm in the chaos is a really great way to put it. Release the conflict, right? Release the conflict from their heart and release their conflict from their day to day and how they interact with each other and how they quite literally actually see the world around them and and how to bring more of the peace and calm in a values aligned way and oftentimes bring the attention back to their children, which is what they want to do, but it's so easy to get caught up in all the things and unintentionally lose track of that and just get caught up in the war. So how to release the war essentially is what I support parents with finding and accessing and creating systems to sustain over time. I'm excited, Kim, to learn more about your specific programs. I know you have really powerful programs with a lot of intention. And could you share a little bit more about them and the structure and kind of what the focus is in each of the phases?
Yeah, of course. So I do work with people individually. Um, my favorite thing to do is run divorce support and recovery groups. So I run a 5-week group, 5-week program, and it is called Rebuild and Blossom. And the first section, the first 5 weeks is about healing your heart. It's about denial, it's about the emotions, it's about stopping the what if thinking, all of the ruminations. Because if you are stuck in your head, you're just stuck. You can't focus, you can't sleep, you can't be the best parent to your children. And then we move into really dealing with your feelings. And there's some pretty big feelings when you're getting divorced. We have grief, we have loss, we have anger. Anger is a huge one. Oftentimes there's betrayal and shame and all kinds of regret. And then, so that's the first 5 weeks. And then the second part is letting go and finding your strength because you can't really let go, find your strength, move on, right? It's about moving on if you're still mired in all of the thoughts, the emotions, all that icky stuff. So then the second part is really, like I said, it's moving on. And we talk about finding your identity again, rewriting your story, figuring out where you want to be, who you are, where you want to be, how do you get there? And that's the really exciting part. And I love working with groups because there's so much support, there's so much community. Often divorce is so isolating. So you don't want to burden your friends and family, and you don't
Yeah.
want to be Debbie Downer. And if you go to your lawyer for support, emotional support, that's really expensive. And they're not usually trained in mental health. If you take advice from friends, it's really confusing because everybody's story is different. So that's why I really like working with people in groups, because
I
there's
just,
that unique, yeah, that unique bond.
yes, I just want to add a piece. I find, and it took me a while to distinguish this for myself, but our friends and our family who are so well-intentioned and absolutely adore us, they want to validate us so badly that sometimes they unintentionally get us deeper into the thing that is upsetting or
Mhm.
frustrating or keeping us in our own way. So yeah, to your point, that's so true. And it's so important to have a group where we feel safe and supported and we have the space to really explore what we need to and share, right? And all the things, but as well as people who understand and or are trained sometimes it's through life experience that they gain this understanding, especially when they're willing to delve into the deep work. Um, how to acknowledge what is, but also move forward, right? It's
Yeah.
often the nuances and in these spaces that being new to that work or being newly in that experience, one can easily lose track of, and it can all feel very collapsed. So I totally agree, like that confusion, but also the importance of your friends and family are there to hold you when you cry, to take you to dinner and go and have fun with or do events with, but have doing that kind of work and that kind of forward movement and finding that clarity, I think is so important to have a
Mhm.
space that is often created intentionally for those
Yes.
circumstances.
Yes. And a lot of times it carries through, right? So the bonds and the friendships that you make, a lot
Yeah,
of my participants stay in touch after. And
yeah,
it's really exciting for me to see the transformation that happens.
absolutely. That's so powerful. What do you notice tends to be maybe the biggest, like either myth or sticking point, or maybe one of each, that you see with clients in this work, or maybe even in beginning to do this work?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest misconceptions or myths is that my life is over. My life is over. Everything that I've worked for is now, kaput. We worked so hard to get to this point. All of my plans are now turned upside down. So there is that overwhelm that I gave the best years of my life to him or her, and now where am I gonna, who am I? What am I gonna do now? I'm gonna be alone forever. So we tend to catastrophize. But just because your marriage is over doesn't mean that your life has ended at all. I mean, there is a beautiful light at the end of the tunnel. I would have never thought I would be in this field myself. I mean, I got married in 1995 and I thought we'd be together forever. And here I am 30 years later, divorced and working with people who are getting divorced. It wasn't even on my radar. So you never know where life will take you. And it's really, important to, even in the depths of despair, to have that little light shining that there is hope. And then it will expand. And that is almost your north light, like your North Star, right? Your guiding light. That's what I mean to say. It's your North Star. So it shines brighter and brighter as you emerge from an event that's really, really challenging, but not life ending. Maybe life altering, but change is not always bad. Change could
Right.
be very good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's such a powerful point because we are just simply, we don't like change. We're uncomfortable with it. And oftentimes we aren't good at it because we haven't practiced. But really, to your point, oftentimes it could be an ushering of like the most beautiful, magnificent dream. You've never even dared to allow yourself to dream, right? Like
Mhm.
that's,
Yeah,
and it's not like only for the special blessed of us. It's just if you dare to walk powerfully into whatever is and through the the muck oftentimes, right? There's no shortcuts.
right. And I think that that's why, that's what you and I do. We help guide people through the muck,
Yeah,
right? That's what we do. We hold your hand, we walk beside you, we're your sounding boards. We help you get through the sticky stuff so that you can eventually like run on your own, where whatever direction that takes you.
absolutely. It's so powerful. Um, you've shared a little bit about the beauty of community. What strikes you the most as you sit with your participants when you're guiding the groups? Like, what is there something that maybe commonly comes up that surprises you, or perhaps just like makes you just sit in awe and wonder? I'm sure there's so many different things, but I'm just curious, because I think it's so important, and I'm such a fan of group work. I think the magic is when we are in the space of exploring something together,
Mhm.
all somehow touched by a shared type of experience, right? Like no two stories are ever going to be the same. Every single human is different. How we experience it and process it is different. But ultimately, when we're going through a similar experience and we're just able to safely explore and lean into and create space for feeling that and being with all the aspects of it, I think there's such magic that happens when people are sharing and giving voice to these ideas wherever they're at, whether they're in the exploration, whether they're with the stuck, really yucky, really
Mhm.
feelings, whether it's just like I have no idea what's next, I'm terrified, or if it's wow, when you just said that, that opened up this thought, or it just gave me this idea, and I needed to, I needed to speak it out loud. Any number of those things I find are genuinely
Mhm.
just magic, and it exhilarates me to no end. And I'm just curious, what are
Yeah.
moments for you that you find because you lead these groups?
Yeah, I think that it's the power of knowing that you're not alone and that you are validated, right? There are other people that feel the same way. And when you see them, you're like, well, that person looks pretty put together. Yes, they're really sad and maybe they're crying, but like I really respect them and I really I can empathize with them and they're like me. Maybe, again, different stories, but it again, like I said, divorce could be very isolating, and knowing that you're not alone is really important. And I ran a group once. There were 5 people. One was kind of in the middle. Two women were older and they had grown kids. And then there were two younger moms with younger kids. And it was so interesting how the younger ones looked to the older ones for advice. And then the older ones really, gave guidance to the younger ones. And the way that they shared stories and inspired each other, it's almost like you're in pain, they're in pain, but there's this beauty that comes from the pain that kind of drives this we're all in this together. We're going to get through this together. So that's very powerful. So I love to see that rather than wither away in isolation to really become stronger with other people.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's amazing. Um, what has been maybe the most surprising experience in leading the groups, like maybe a story or an aspect that just kind of naturally arose in your discussions that maybe the average person who's hearing about a divorce support group wouldn't think that they would be able to gain something like that from that experience?
Yeah, I structure my groups very positively. So there's work that people do on themselves, and it's solution based. It's solving problems. It is solution focused. It is not a kind of group where people sit around and tell horror stories, compare war stories that you feel worse leaving than you did when you came in. Um, I integrate your head, your thoughts, your heart, your feelings, and then yourself, your identity. So it's really, I love watching people really rediscover themselves, find that spark again. So clear out some of the mental clutter, get rid of some of the heavy emotions, process through the heavy emotions, and then really find that spark again, find their identity, and how everybody cheers each other on. People don't leave the same way that they came in. They leave more optimistic, more full of hope. And if I and the group if we've all done our job, then that's amazing to see that again, it's that transformation from despair to hope.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I can hear like the aliveness as you're describing like that dynamic and what happens there. And yeah, it's so powerful. I agree with you when there's structure in order to move forward and kind of an orientation towards that in the activities, if you will, and discussions of the group. It's so powerful how just an hour or even 50 minutes, right,
Mhm.
can be for somebody. They really do. I've had experiences like that where just a brief conversation. I don't know if you ever do kind of like spot coaching or spot
Mhm.
support within the groups. I know I've done that, and sometimes just a brief, like 5 to 10 minute conversation can shift things so much for somebody. You can feel it in their energy, you could hear it in their voice.
Mhm.
Totally different. And they'll often say something like that unprompted. They'll just say, wow, yeah, that was so helpful. I feel like a
Yeah.
burden is lifted. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really remarkable how it doesn't take much. But to your point, also so much power in just hearing you're not alone, hearing
Mhm.
it's a journey, being reminded, right, that it's not going to all get resolved overnight. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this together. And that's okay,
Yeah.
right? That that's human and that's okay. And that we're on our way to something else. And it's okay if we don't know what that is yet.
That's right. Right. I mean, what is it? It's the journey, not the destination.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And I personally think it's really wonderful when we can be reminded of that more often, because I think sometimes when we get too focused on the destination, weirdly enough, it can limit us.
Right, right. And then
We're-
the destination never moves, right? Because we kind of want that flexibility. We want options and choices, and we don't want to be stagnant.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, that's remarkable. So I am feeling really moved to share.
Hmm.
Just like you, I love to do groups, and I am very excited to officially announce that I am working on something behind the scenes that I'm not fully ready to give all the details about yet. But it is for me, self-regulation. There's many tools I find extremely valuable in the work that I've done and the trainings that I've um, engaged with. But self-regulation was a game changer in my culture coming from Russia in the 80s. And sort of that was like the capsule in which I was living at home.
Hmm.
Uh, that was, it was just, we don't talk about feelings, we don't acknowledge or repair. We just
Yeah.
load our feelings everywhere and then pretend like nothing happened and call that unconditional love.
Yeah,
And
right.
very difficult for me to be with. And what I didn't know for many years is that I am a highly sensitive person. So for me, it was so chaotic absorbing all of that with no closure, nowhere to put it. And we know the body stores it. So
Yeah.
that's what was happening with me. And when I discovered that there's such a thing as regulating your central nervous system with intentional like actions, be they thoughts that we're distinguishing or literal grounding exercises and
Hmm.
activity. we can do for ourselves, it blew my mind. And then I was like, why doesn't everybody know about this?
Right, right. I want to share it with the world.
It continues to shock me how many people don't fully
Yeah.
know and kind of sort of know a little bit about it. And so it was on my heart because, again, my commitment, and I just think it's so remarkable to have a container, a safe space. I think
Mhm.
I struggled with taking up space and having a voice. So I think that's another really incredible,
Yeah. Yeah.
empowering thing. And I think sometimes, again, it's undistinguished for us the degree to which our voices are made to be small and kind of taken
Mhm.
away from us in different ways, and how different experiences and or circumstances or individuals can sometimes limit us in ways we don't even realize and make us
Mhm.
shrink. And so I am committed to creating a space where I encourage people to go ahead and unfold and be big and bold and daring. And again, I just think it's so magical when we actually give voice to whatever it is that we're going through or desiring, etc. So this is a container to gently step in and understand why and how our body and mind responds the way they do and really tune inward. For me, that was the lifesaver when I was in the depths of my abusive marriage, first marriage, and literally sobbing on the floor, crying out to God, like, please, I don't know what to do. Please
Yeah.
save me. It was going inward. And that is a multi-layer journey.
Mhm.
But essentially, it's having the courage to listen inward because we already have all the wisdom inside of us.
Mhm.
This is just about finding a path to connect with it. And that's what this container is meant to offer. It's a gentle invitation to be taken at whatever pace feels comfortable. There will be some sprinkled tidbits of information that you
Mhm.
can absorb to, again, your own choosing. And, but essentially a safe space to share with others and explore with others and really identify what are energy leaks, what depletes us, what fills us, and how to create a customized blueprint that feels accessible to us, that is unique to us and specific to us, that we can live into, that to intentionally fill our cup, whatever
Mhm.
that looks like today. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's an 8-week container because I also believe endings are really important because, again,
Yes.
we have to remember that we already are sourced from within. We don't need anybody or anything, but it can be useful to be guided and to be in community with others who are on the same journey. So, yeah.
And I think that, you've mentioned the word safe and gentle. That's so important because you have to feel safe and you have to go gently, and then the momentum builds. So I love that yeah, you are providing this place of safety with the beginning and an end. And you're right, you can't, most of my clients that are parents, that is their number one fear. And I know you can relate to this with your clients. They're worried that their kids are going to come out scarred or they're going to ruin their kids, or it's, they're very concerned about the well-being of their children. And we can't be effective parents if our cups are empty and if our wells are dry and if we are just, we can't get off the bathroom floor in the morning and stop crying. So I think that this is so important what you're doing, for your own well-being, and then to be your best self, parent or daughter or, brother, whoever you are in relation to your world, but also just to yourself.
I so appreciate you calling that out. And I think that's the key of why I'm going to get on my soapbox and talk about the importance of support, which you
Yeah.
offer,
Hmm.
is because, like, to your point, I think when we are concerned about an area of life, be it like maybe it's our aging parents, maybe it's our kids, maybe it's a loved one who's going through a critical illness, and our instinct is, well, I'm going to cut out of my own needs,
Hmm.
burn the candle at both ends to do more for them. And as much as that's a really lovely sentiment, it doesn't work that way.
No, no.
Only depletes our resources and we become less effective at being able to support the people that we claim we care about, which
Hmm.
the counterintuitive way that this operates. But I think it's so important to really understand. And I say this as often as possible because I also know that it takes a lot of exposure to one concept for us to really
Yeah. Right, right.
Oh, at the risk of being redundant, yeah, it's so, so key. And to remember too, when it comes to our kids, we guide by example. So
Right.
again, when we are really good at taking care of ourselves and having strong, healthy boundaries that are not walls, but are true boundaries,
Hmm.
love and out of our values, then we are teaching our kids, hey, you can do this too. You have these skills too. Come join me. Here's what I'm doing. And they're picking up everything that they're watching us do. They'll
Right.
listen to what we say, but not as much as watching.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So that's the most, I think, powerful gift we can give them is not to keep doing for them, but instead how to empower them and teach them the skills of how to do this for themselves and empower themselves.
Yeah, I think that that is very true too. And again, like taking care of yourself. I just recently saw on like TikTok or Instagram, one of those things. Imagine you switch bodies with the person that you love most in the world. And for many of us, it's our children. And how would you treat that body? How would you speak to that person? What thoughts would you have? Another thing is like we are so unkind to ourselves in our self-talk. We would never speak to our friends the way that we speak to ourselves. So again, it's like putting yourself out in the world as you treat yourself like you would treat somebody that you love. And I don't think we do that enough.
No, I totally agree with you. My husband was famously said to me a couple of years ago, "We're the worst friends to ourselves." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes,
Mm,
we really
that's
are."
very true. Very sad and very true.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe sometimes we have to treat ourselves not as ourselves, but as somebody we love, just like you
Yeah.
said.
Hmm.
Love that. It's so powerful. Yeah. And again, just I think everything starts with awareness, right? So
Yeah.
just in place, like your groups, um,
Hmm.
to start to come and start noticing what is the reality of where I'm at, right? Because you can't move forward if you're not aware of where you are. Everybody always wants to
Right.
get to the end. Um,
Right.
there's no end until we fully acknowledge and accept, right? Sometimes there's a whole piece to accepting because we're in denial,
Mm,
in shock, or we're not really processing, we're not dealing with what
right.
is, deluding ourselves. It's so important to just first acknowledge where are we, and then you can start to take some actions to move
Hmm.
in the direction you want to go. Set some
Yeah.
intention. I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like to say to my clients, like take little bites so you don't choke. So you don't want to stay in the past. We could kind of maybe visit it a little bit, explore so we don't make the same mistakes, but you don't want to stay stuck in the past. And you don't want to go so far into the future that you become so overwhelmed or you set impossible goals. So present intentionality is something that I feel so strongly about. So setting your intention, like, well, what do I want to accomplish today to meet my bigger goal? What are the little steps I could take? Because when we get it's that paralysis when we become overwhelmed. And then we stay stuck. We're just paralyzed. But really setting those intentions, realistic intentions for ourselves and realistic expectations from other people.
Yeah.
Because that's another tricky that's another tricky topic.
Yeah.
Controlling what we could control, knowing our wants and our needs, being able to express those right now in the moment. And that's so important, I think, being present for even the emotional regulation that you're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. The first step is being present and the awareness, right? Like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. Um, thank you so much, Kim. I so
Thank
appreciate
you.
the amazing work you do and just having this conversation with you. Where can people find you and more about your work?
Sure. So I am on social media and my website is kimberlylauracoaching.com. And I have on that website, you could take a free self-test, a divorce recovery self-test, and it takes about 10-15 minutes. And when you take it, you get your results, and it kind of gives you an idea of where you are in the divorce recovery process. It tells you what areas you're strong in and what areas need a little bit more work. And I offer complimentary consultations to go over test results, just to speak about any challenges that you have. And I'm always here. I love talking to people and I love helping people. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Everybody go take the quiz because that sounds amazing. And again, we just talked about it. Awareness is the first step. So
That's
go ahead
right.
and do it so that you know exactly where you're at and you can start finding a way to move forward towards where you'd like to be. And Kim and I are there for you with complimentary assessment calls and answering any questions you might have. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank
Again,
you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much.
my pleasure. It was delightful to talk to you. Everyone go check out Kim's website and we'll see you back here soon. Take care.
Thank you.